I don't remember the exact moment my body gave up, but I remember the crash of metal, the screeching tires, and then a suffocating silence. They told me later it was a miracle I survived. But what they didn't know was that I never really left. While machines breathed for me and my body lay unmoving, my mind remained trapped in a surreal space between darkness and sound, absorbing everything around me. Every footstep, every sob, every whisper, it all reached me. Most people think a coma is an empty void, a silent nothingness, but I was very much present. I couldn't respond, couldn't open my eyes, couldn't scream when the nurses poked needles or the doctors discussed my prognosis, but I heard it all. It was during the second week, maybe the third, when the visitors had thinned and the get well cards faded on the table, that he came. My husband, the man who promised me forever. I knew it was him by the way the door creaked open and the gentle rhythm of his steps, familiar, and yet now so foreign. He sat beside me, sighed deeply, and then leaned in. "You probably can't hear me," he whispered, and I felt the tremor in his voice. But I have to say this somewhere. My heart, if it could beat on its own, would have raced. He cleared his throat. "I never meant for any of this to happen. But I'm tired, you know? I'm tired of pretending." A wave of dread swept over me. What did he mean? I braced myself if that was even possible in the shell of my body. And then came the words that shattered me more than the accident ever could. "I loved you once, but now I don't even know who you are anymore. I come here every day out of guilt, not love, not hope." Each syllable struck me like a hammer to the chest. I had always feared we were drifting apart, but I chalked it up to life, jobs, bills, the stress of trying to conceive for years. But hearing it confirmed like this, while I lay helpless, was crueler than I ever imagined. He sighed again. "Everyone thinks I'm the grieving husband, but truthfully, I feel free. Isn't that terrible?" His voice cracked slightly, as though the weight of his confession was too heavy. "When I walk out of here, I breathe easier. I sleep better." I wanted to scream, to cry, to beg for an explanation, but my body betrayed me, frozen and mute. "I know this sounds heartless," he continued, "but I needed to say it out loud. Just once. I don't want you to die, but if you don't wake up." I wouldn't be devastated either. I felt a kind of death then, not physical, but the death of illusions, of memories, of every tender moment we had ever shared. The man who held me during panic attacks, who danced with me barefoot in the kitchen, who whispered promises into my hair, he was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. And yet, I still loved him. How broken is that? He sat there for another hour, recounting all the things he never had the courage to say when I was awake. Complaints about my mood swings, about the weight I gained, about how he felt trapped in our life. Every word etched itself into my soul. But, as horrible as it was to hear, something else awakened in me, resolve. I didn't know when or how, but I knew one thing: I had to wake up. The days that followed blurred into a haze of beeping machines and muffled conversations. My mother visited often, her voice always soft and loving. She held my hand, kissed my forehead, and prayed aloud. Friends trickled in with awkward cheerfulness, unsure of what to say to a motionless body. But he returned too, and each time he peeled away more layers of his truth. "I've been seeing someone," he whispered once, thinking I couldn't hear. "It started after your birthday. I didn't plan it. My world caved further." I recalled that birthday vividly. He had been distant, blaming work, but brought home a cake and flowers late at night. "All a facade. She's kind to me," he said softly. "She listens, and I don't feel like I'm walking on eggshells around her." Eggshells. I had always gone out of my way to support him, to celebrate his wins, to stand by him even when I suspected he was hiding things, and now, to be painted as some villain in his narrative, it was beyond betrayal. I wanted to wake up just to look him in the eyes and ask him how he slept at night. But the worst part, I still remembered the way he held my hand when I was first wheeled into the how his tears fell on my cheeks. Was that guilt or residual love? I had no answers, only pain. And a growing fire deep within me urging me not to give up. One night, during the quiet hours when the hospital halls fell silent, he came again. But this time, his voice was different, lower, almost rehearsed. "They want to take you off support soon," he said, and I felt my stomach drop. "They say you're not improving, that there's no point in dragging this out. What?" No, I was still here, screaming inside. "I'm not ready to make that decision," he muttered. "But it wouldn't be the worst thing, would it? You wouldn't suffer, and maybe it's time." My heart thundered in panic, though no machine registered it. He was thinking about ending me, pulling the plug. My husband, the man who vowed to fight for me through sickness and health, was contemplating my end like it was a chore. I felt like a ghost watching her own eulogy unfold in whispers. But something inside me snapped then, not in despair, but defiance. I would not let this be my end. Not like this, not on his terms. That night, something shifted. A finger twitched, a flicker of muscle in my cheek. Nurses called it a reflex, but I knew better. It was the beginning of my return. Progress was painfully slow. Every tiny movement felt like lifting mountains, but I clung to every inch of improvement like it was a lifeline. A toe wiggle here, a flutter of eyelids there. Days turned to weeks, and he started visiting less. Perhaps he thought I'd slipped too far, or maybe guilt weighed him down. Either way, I no longer cared. My fight was no longer about him. It was about me, about reclaiming my life. Nurses began speaking to me more, playing soft music, reading aloud. My mother never gave up, always brushing my hair, whispering that she believed in me. And then, one morning, I opened my eyes. Just a sliver. The blinding hospital lights flooded in, and I blinked. The room erupted in gasps and calls for the doctor. I was back, weak, exhausted, trembling, but back. And with every rehab session, every sip of water, every word I reeled to speak, I grew stronger. But I never forgot what I heard. I never told anyone, not yet. The day he returned after my awakening was almost cinematic. He walked in with practiced sorrow, flowers in hand, expecting perhaps to see a vegetable or a woman too broken to remember. But I looked him dead in the eye. He froze, unsure of how to react. "You're awake," he stammered. I nodded slowly, carefully. He sat beside me, awkward and nervous. "I've been here every day," he said, voice thick with forced emotion. I smiled, not kindly, but knowingly. "I know," I whispered. I heard every word. His face drained of color. Panic flickered in his eyes. What do you mean?" I tilted my head, savoring the shift in power. "Everything, the truth, her name, your relief. Your plans to end it all." Silence fell like a weight between us. He opened his mouth, but no words came. For the first time, I saw fear in him. Not of my anger, but of my knowledge. "You don't have to explain," I said quietly. "You already did." When you thought I couldn't hear, he tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled away. That gesture, so small, was everything. Recovery took months, but I never stopped. Not just physically, I began rebuilding my identity, my confidence, my life. I moved in with my sister temporarily, surrounded by warmth and support. My mother stood by me like a guardian angel, and he tried. He sent texts, left voicemails, even cried on my doorstep once, but I was done. The love I had for him had been real, deep, and selfless, but it had also been blind. And now, with eyes wide open, I chose self-respect over sentiment. I filed for divorce 6 months later. In court, he looked like a man unraveling. He offered apologies, excuses, pleas, but I didn't flinch. I remembered the way he said, "I sleep better without you." That was all I needed. I walked out of that courtroom with no regrets, no rage, only freedom. People later asked how I found the strength. I smiled and said, when you hear the truth in silence, it teaches you more than words ever could. Now I speak about it. Not all the details, not the affair or the betrayal, but the awareness. The strange, beautiful clarity Coma gifted me. I've spoken at hospitals, to families holding vigil, telling them, talk to your loved ones. Tell them what matters, because you never know what they might hear. I've turned my pain into purpose, becoming a counselor for women recovering from trauma. My story resonates not because it's rare, but because too many people live in silence. If I could go back, I wouldn't change the accident. As cruel as it sounds, it saved me. It ripped the mask off a marriage built on pretense and gave me a second chance to live authentically. Today, I laugh louder, love deeper, and choose people who choose me back. And sometimes, just sometimes, when I close my eyes at night, I remember that hospital bed and the woman I used to be, and I whisper, to her, you made it. You heard the truth. And you still rose, because some awakenings begin in darkness and end in light.